Hello and welcome to Spectrum Television News at 9. I am Uyai Anyakan, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Let's take a look at some of the major stories. Federal government revokes 1,633 mining licenses. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino presents 2024 budget estimate of 845.632 billion naira to State House of Assembly. Plus, Germany pledges $1.4 billion for Ukraine's army on 10-year maiden anniversary. We will bring you details of the stories and more in a moment. Good evening and thanks for joining us. We begin the news tonight from the Hilltop Mansion, where the Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moina today presented the 2024 Estimate Appropriation Bill to the State House of Assembly. In his presentation, the governor appealed for the timely passage of the budget for effective implementation. Our correspondent has the details.
Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has presented a budget estimate of 845.632 billion naira for the 2024 fiscal year to the State House of Assembly for consideration and approval. Governor Ino, who made the presentation on the floor of the state legislature, said the 2024 budget estimates, christened a rise budget for growth and expansion, is made up of 352.917 billion naira for recurrent expenditure and 492.715 billion naira for capital expenditure. The governor told the lawmakers that the implementation strategy will be to partner with foreign investors, widen infrastructure base of the state, and expand and maintain infrastructure services in healthcare, amongst others.
As we review the performance of the 2023 budget, I'd like to inform you that a total of 850 billion was approved for the 2023 fiscal year, with a total recurrent expenditure of 394 billion and the capital vote of 455 billion.
Governor Ino, who thanked the 8th Assembly for the cooperation and support they've extended to him so far, pledged his readiness to work collaboratively with all, without rancor or acrimony, for the success of Akwa Ibom. He urged the State Assembly on the expeditious approval of the estimates, while assuring of his determination to the faithful implementation of the budget for the well-being of Akwa Ibom people.
I'd like to assure this Honorable House that we will continue to promote the values of Akwa Ibomites everywhere we are. We'll continue to work with Akwa Ibomites in the diaspora to ensure that we harness all of their potentials. And to make this happen, I've appointed a Senior Special Assistant on Diaspora Matters, who will help us coordinate all of our people.
Meanwhile, the Speaker of the Akwa Ibom State House of Assembly, Udemotong, has pledged the continued collaboration of the legislature with the executive arm of the government to ensure the implementation of the government's plan for the state and the timely passage of the budget.
In this regard, we have made events for through legislations and resolutions that are shaped toward giving legal backing to policies, programs, and other activities of this administration, as well as being a lifetime of His Excellency and Rights agenda. So far, we have prepared the two people statutory bills and 57 motions, some of which are still at committee stage, awaiting scrutiny and public hearings. This would not have been possible without the rigorous support of our dear governor, and it is our expectation that those bills will be given due recognition when the governor assent is given to them.
The state government is proposing a 2024 budget estimate of 845.632 billion naira, as against the approved revised provision of 850 billion naira of 2023, representing a decrease of 0.5% from the 2023 revised budget. In Uyo, Jane Uwa, Spectrum Television News.
Meanwhile, Governor Charles Soludo of Anambra State today presented a 410 billion naira 2024 budget to the State House of Assembly for approval. Speaking at the ceremony, Soludo said the budget tagged "Changing Gears, the Transformation Agenda Begins" was aimed at beginning the transformation agenda and implementing a new master plan to build a livable and prosperous homeland. He said the budget was made up of 313.9 billion naira capital expenditure, representing 77%, and 96.2 billion naira recurrent expenditure, representing 23.46%. The governor said the budget had a deficit of 120 billion naira expected to be funded through a facility from financial institutions. To the seat of power now, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has asked for German investment in vital Nigerian economic areas, including electricity and rail transport, according to a statement released by the president's spokesperson, Ajurin Gilali. Tinubu made the request at a meeting with the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz in Berlin outside the G20 Compact with Africa Economic Conference. According to the president, important growth enabling businesses in transportation, energy and the generation, transmission and distribution of electric power require German investment. The president said there should be a renewed urgency to the uneven and sporadic implementation of the Presidential Power Initiative, which is backed by Siemens. Meanwhile, former President Muhammadu Buhari has justified why the Naira redesign policy was introduced during the 2023 general election period. Buhari made this revelation in his first interview since leaving office, which was aired on the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA). According to him, the Naira redesign policy was intended to show Nigerians that there is no shortcut to power. Recall that the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, under Governor Godwin Emefiele, implemented the Naira redesign policy, which forced many Nigerians into hardship due to the scarcity of the currency. In the meantime, the Vice President Kashim Shettima has approved the constitution of a multi-sectoral committee to drive the federal government's Human Capital Development (HCD) program. The multi-sectoral team consists of federal and state governments, donors and partners who are expected to convene every 2 weeks to review the progress of work in addressing the objectives of the HCD program. A statement signed by Shettima's Senior Special Assistant on Media and Communications, Stanley Mokocha, revealed this to newsmen. According to the statement, HCD program focuses on 3 thematic areas: health and nutrition, labor force participation, and education, and 6 essential human capital development areas, including under 5 mortality rate, malnutrition, adult mortality, expected years of school, quality of learning, and labor force participation rate. Away from that, the federal government has introduced a plan to reduce the level of open defecation in Nigeria. The plan was presented today in Abuja during an event marking the World Toilet Day 2023 with the theme Accelerating Change. The Minister of Water Resources and Sanitation, Professor Joseph Husseff, stressed the value of stakeholder ownership and teamwork in his speech at the ceremony, emphasizing the need to move quickly on initiatives that promote a healthier and cleaner environment. He highlighted the ministry's commitment to maximizing the wash sector's social and economic benefits. Meanwhile, the federal government, through the Ministry of Solid Minerals Development, has revoked 1,633 minerals titles previously given to non-complying mining companies. The Minister of Solid Mineral Development, Dele Alake, announced this during a press briefing today in Abuja. He said the licenses of these mineral title holders were revoked due to failure to pay mandatory annual service fees of 1,500 naira per cadastral unit. In the meantime, the Minister of Marine and Blue Economy, Boyega Oyetola, has said that the federal government is working towards the re-establishment of a national shipping line through a strategic public-private partnership arrangement. The minister also noted that the government has created a roadmap towards a sustainable blue economy. Speaking in Lagos today at a stakeholders roundtable engagement on advancing sustainable development in Nigeria's marine and blue economy, Oyetola explained that the roadmap will advance the country's industry potential, promote sustainable blue economy investment, and ensure global competitiveness within the sector. Elsewhere, the Minister of Arts, Culture and Creative Economy, Hannatu Musawa, today said the federal government's objective was to create 10% of the country's gross domestic product by expanding the sector's GDP to $100 billion by 2030. Musawa, who spoke during the Arts, Culture and Creative Economic Roundtable at the State House in Abuja, said the government would work towards ensuring a conducive environment that encourages growth and investment. Meanwhile, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, has said that the Federation account is witnessing improved revenue inflow since the removal of subsidy from an average of 650 billion naira monthly to over 1 trillion naira in the last 4 months. The minister stated this in Asaba at the opening ceremony of a 4-day retreat organized for members of the Federation Account Allocation Committee, FAAC. The minister, represented by the Permanent Secretary of Finance, Special Duties, Okokon Udo, said government had for long realized that petroleum subsidy was not sustainable. According to him, the subsidy administration eroded revenues that should have been available to fund viable expenditures that were critical to the well-being of the populace. From the Red Chambers now, where the Senate has asked the federal government to immortalize the late designer of the national flag, Pa Taiwo Akinkumi. Akinkumi died in Ibadan on August 29 after the motion moved by Senator Sharafaddin Abiodun representing Oyo South. The lawmakers observed a minute's silence. They also called on the federal government to conduct a state burial in his honor for his befitting role in the design of the national flag. The Senate also dissolved into the Committee of the Whole to consider the reports of the Committee on the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency, FEMA. Meanwhile, the Senate today confirmed the appointment of Dr. Chukwuemeka Agbasi as the Managing Director of the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA. This followed the adoption of the reports of the Senate Committee on FEMA at the Committee of the Whole today. Presenting the reports, the chairman of the committee, Senator Hussaini Uba, urged the Senate to consider the request of President Tinubu for the confirmation of the nominee in accordance with Section 2, Subsection 1, Subsection 2 of the FEMA Act 2002. The Senate also confirmed the appointment of 9 other persons as members of the board of FEMA. Those confirmed included Ibi Manasseh, Dr. Kenneth Ubala, Senator Timothy Aduda, Babatunde Daramola, Priye Osike, Aminu Papa, Abubakar Bapa, Shehu Mohammed, and Yusuf Othman. In the meantime, Senator representing Benue South Senatorial District Abba Moro has emerged Senate Minority Leader today. Moro, a 2-term senator on the platform of the People's Democratic Party (PDP), was nominated by the opposition party in the Red Chamber and was subsequently affirmed. He took over from Senator Simon Mwakwan, representing Plateau North Senatorial District, who was removed by the appeal court. Reports say the newly elected minority leader was a former Minister of Interior during the former President Goodluck Jonathan administration. Elsewhere, the Senate Committee on Finance has berated the Nigerian Agricultural Insurance Corporation (NAIC) over its inability to provide details of its finances from 2021-2022 up to the third quarter of 2023. At an interactive session in Abuja, members of the committee regretted the absence of receipts to prove NAIC expenditures from revenue claims. The committee, led by Sani Musa, senator representing Niger South Senatorial District, also charged NAIC to provide detailed receipts of remittances said to have been made with the surplus revenue generated in 2023. The committee therefore mandated the management of the organization to furnish it with the corporation's audited accounts covering 2021 and 2022 up to the third quarter of 2023. Still from the Red Chambers, the Senate Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions has asked two students, Cyprian Igwe and Olamilekon Olodaru, who were expelled by the University of Abuja in July over an alleged plan to protest against a proposed fees hike, to appear before it. The students had petitioned the Senate asking the Red Chamber to intervene and prevail on the university's authority to reinstate them so as not to suffer for an offense they did not commit. Oladeru petitioned the Senate through Fadahunsi Adegimba, senator representing Osun East Senatorial District, while Igwe wrote through Victor Ume, senator representing Anambra Central Senatorial District. Both Igwe and Oladeru recently finished their final year examinations and were awaiting their results to proceed on the mandatory National Youth Service when they were expelled from school for the alleged offense. We move now to the Green Chambers, where the House of Representatives has approved the 2024-2026 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework (MTEF) and Fiscal Strategy Paper (FSP). The House approved a benchmark oil price of $73.95 US, $73.76 and $69.90 per barrel. Daily crude oil production of 1.78 barrels per day, 1.80 barrels per day, and 1.81 barrels per day for 2024, 2025, and 2026 respectively. The Green Chamber also approved exchange rate of 700 naira, 665 naira 0.61 kobo, and 669 naira 7.9 kobo to US dollars, proposed by the executive for the period 2024 to 2026. The lower chamber proposed the gross domestic product (GDP) growth rate at 3.76%, 4.22%, and 4.78% during the years 2024, 2025, and 2026, with an inflation rate of 21.40% in 2024, 20.30% in 2025, and 18.60% in 2026. The House also approved the recommendation of its committees on finance, loans, and debt management that, having discovered that the subsidiaries of the Nigerian Postal Service (NIPOS) so created are irregular and illegal, they would be wound up and deregistered immediately. In a separate development, the Service Chiefs and Inspector General of Police (IGP) Kayode Betokun have appeared before the House of Representatives. The Service Chiefs include the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tawhid Lakwaja, Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Hassan Abubakar, and Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Emmanuel Ogala. They were ushered into the Green Chamber for the security sectoral debate. This comes after a criticism of the security heads by the lawmakers for sending representatives who were rejected. On judicial matters, the Court of Appeal in Abuja has dismissed the appeal by the governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Umar Ado, against the election victory of Adamawa State's Governor Ahmadu Fintiri of the People's Democratic Party, PDP. The chairman of the tribunal, Justice T.O. Uloho, dismissed the petition for being incompetent and not properly filed. In his judgment today, Justice Ugochukwu Ogaku of the appeal court agreed with the tribunal that the appellants did not prove the allegations of corrupt practices and non-compliance to the Electoral Act against INEC. He said there was grant the appeal. In politics, the new Nigeria People's Party (NNPP) has welcomed the call by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar for the merger opposition parties to wrestle power from the ruling All Progressives Congress (APC). The party's position was made public in a press conference addressed by the AG. National Chairman of the party, Abba Kawu Ali, in Abuja today. Away from that, Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, Moses Thomas Sule, and his deputy, Waton, have resigned their positions. The member representing Pangshin North, Gabriel Dawang, was subsequently elected as the new Speaker of the Assembly. Timothy Datong, representing Riom constituency, emerged the new Deputy Speaker of the Assembly, although the details of the resignations are yet to be made public. The developments may not be unconnected to the political instability in the state. In another development, the Defense Headquarters has denied the reports that the Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, has died. A report by a newspaper had claimed the Defense Chief had passed away. However, the DHQ, in a post on X today, said the Defense Chief is well and alive. Recall that Musa was appointed by President Bola Tinubu as the Chief of Defense Staff on June 19, 2023. Still to come in the news. Lithium extends sell-off to 2-year low, CNY 140,000 per ton in November. Stay tuned for details of this and more after the break.
Christmas season is here again. Are you aware that making your business or product visible on a television space gives your brand a wider visibility and patronage? In the spirit of the season, Spectrum Television is offering a whopping 25% discount on all services. Advertise your products and services while this offer lasts from 1st December 2023 to January 31st, 2024. We are a television with a passion to take your business and services on a satisfactory lane. You do not want to miss this opportunity. For more enquiries, visit our city office at number 2 Taft Plaza Close off Akaitinin Road, Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, or call the following numbers on your screen. Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for staying tuned, and now to the rest of the news stories. In Africa, Liberia National Electoral Commission (NEC) has declared political veteran Joseph Boakai winner of Liberia's presidential election, beating incumbent George Weah. The NEC's president, David Data Lansana, said Boakai won 50.64% of the vote against 49.36% of the vote for former international football star Weah, given a 20,567 vote margin. Reports say the outgoing president and former football star won praise from abroad for conceding and promoting a non-violent transition in the region marred by coups. In related developments, more than a dozen people were injured and several are feared dead in Liberia after a vehicle rammed into supporters of President-elect Joseph Boakai. The police have described the incident as an accident, but Boakai's Unity Party called it a barbaric act of domestic terrorism. It came just hours after Liberia's electoral body declared him the winner of last week's presidential election. In his concession speech, President George Weah had called for unity. It was a closely fought election with just over 20,000 votes separating the two candidates in the runoff poll. Reports say they were celebrating the official announcement of his victory outside the UP headquarters in the capital Monrovia. Meanwhile, there are conflicting reports of the time of the incident, but witnesses place it at some point in the 2 hours after 21:00. Still in Africa, Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC), opposition leader Moise Katumbi has officially launched his campaign for president at a rally in Kisangani 1 month ahead of the election. The 58-year-old businessman has promised to fight graft, create jobs, and reform the country's ailing economy. Katumbi criticized incumbent President Felix Tshisekedi's record in the DRC's volatile East, where the army has been battling M23 rebels and other armed groups. He claimed the president was recruiting foreign mercenaries instead of increasing the salaries of military and police. Meanwhile, at least 37 people have died in a stampede during an army recruitment drive at a stadium in Congo, Brazzaville. Reports say some people tried to force their way through a stadium gate in the capital, Brazzaville, causing the stampede. Recall that last week the army announced plans to recruit about 1,500 people between the ages of 18 and 25. It is unclear how many people were injured in the overnight crush. Meanwhile, a government statement said that a crisis unit has been set up. According to the Associated Press agency, as many as 700 people a day have been registering over the last week at recruitment centers. Late on Monday night, thousands of young people reportedly turned up at Mikel Dorando Stadium to be first in line today. In the meantime, Israel has recalled its ambassador in South Africa for consultations. Israel's foreign ministry has said it follows the latest South African statements on Israel ministry spokesperson Leo Haidt's X handle without giving specifics. South Africa has been highly critical of Israel's military operation in Gaza. On Monday, it urged the International Criminal Court (ICC) to issue an arrest warrant for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu by mid-December. Minister in the presidency Kumduzo Neseveni said failure to do so would signal a total failure of global governance. Moving on to the foreign scene, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said today that progress was being made on the release of hostages held by Hamas militants in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Israel, the US and Qatar, which mediates with Hamas, have been negotiating for weeks to secure a hostage release deal that will be paired with a temporary ceasefire and the entry of more humanitarian aid into Gaza. In related developments, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has said that the number of civilians killed in Gaza has been unparalleled and unprecedented in comparison to any conflict since 2017. Guterres rejected the possibility of a United Nations protectorate in the enclave and called for a multi-stakeholder approach that will lead to a two-state solution. He added that everybody needs to come together to make the conditions for a transition, allowing Palestinian authorities to assume responsibility in Gaza.
Clear is that we have had, in a few weeks, thousands of children killed. So this is what matters. We are witnessing a killing of civilians that is unparalleled and unprecedented in any conflict since I am Secretary General. What is clear is that we have had, in a few weeks, thousands of children killed. So this is what...
Still on the foreign scene, Germany today unveiled another large military aid package for Ukraine during an unannounced visit to Kyiv by the defense minister that coincided with the 10th anniversary of the historic Maidan protest. Reports say European Union leader Charles Michel and Moldovan leader Maya Sandu were also in the capital Kyiv, becoming the latest officials to throw their political clout behind Ukraine during surprise trips. Meanwhile, a flurry of visits from senior Western officials have sought to reassure Kyiv of more military support as the world's attention shifts to the Middle East and questions emerge over U.S. funding for Ukraine. Meanwhile, a Pakistani court today declared the jail trial of former Prime Minister Imran Khan on charges of leaking state secrets illegal. A special court has been conducting the trial in jail, citing security concerns since Khan was indicted on the charges last month. Khan's legal team had challenged the law ministry notification that ordered the jail trial. According to reports, the charges against Khan relate to a classified cable sent to Islamabad by Pakistan's ambassador in the United States last year, which Khan is accused of making public. Meanwhile, former cricket hero Khan, who was forced from office in 2022 after losing a no-confidence vote in Parliament, has had dozens of legal cases filed against him, which he has denounced as an effort to keep him out of politics. He has been convicted in one graft case and sentenced to 3 years in jail. The sentence was suspended, but he remains in prison in connection with other cases. Meanwhile, North Korea has disclosed to Japan that it may attempt a third spy satellite launch as early as midnight on Wednesday. Tokyo said Pyongyang has notified them of a 9-day window for the launch, which closes at 11:59 p.m. local time on November 30. Reports say Japan will work with South Korea to strongly urge the North not to proceed with the launch, which they said would violate United Nations resolutions. Elsewhere, Poland is set to receive more than €5 billion in EU funds after the European Commission gave a positive assessment of the country's revised recovery plan that includes green reforms and investments today. Reports say the €5.1 billion pre-financing is part of the bloc's Repower EU program aimed at helping the 27 EU nations recover from the energy crisis that followed Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year and reduce their dependence to Russian fossil fuels. And the announcement came a month after an election in Poland secured a parliamentary majority to pro-EU parties aligned with Donald Tusk. Meanwhile, following the EU's executive arms proposal, the Council representing the EU countries has 4 weeks to greenlight the disbursement of money. EU finance ministers are expected to approve the plan at their next meeting on December 8th. And now it's time for the latest business and stock market stories. Here is Blessing Dixon.
Thank you, Yai and Yekan. Good evening, it's Business News, and my name is Blessing Dixon. In the news, lithium carbonate prices extended their decline to 140,000 Chinese yuan per ton in November, the lowest since September 2021, on a lower demand and steady supply. Expectations that growth in Chinese electric vehicle sales is slowing down prompted battery manufacturers to refrain from purchasing significant quantities of lithium during their typical restocking period in the second half of the year. Instead, firms cleared through inventories from the supply glut caused by extensive subsidies from the Chinese government throughout 2021 and 2022. Additionally, demand concerns emerged as the EU is investigating predatory pricing for Chinese vehicles. Elsewhere, the electric vehicle sales in the U.S. have missed expectations as higher credit costs hampered consumers' willingness to make large purchases. However, supply is set to remain robust. Meanwhile, Mineral Resources, the world's second largest producer of lithium raw material, Spodumene, plans to double its lithium production in Western Australia next fiscal year. In Nigeria, the chairman, Federal Inland Revenue Service (FIRS), Zach Adedeji, has charged non-domestic companies shipping crude oil from Nigeria to ensure strict compliance with the country's tax laws in their operations. Adedeji gave the charge in Lagos at a workshop on taxation of non-resident shipping companies organized by the FIRS in conjunction with the Oil Producers Trade Section. He said the tax compliance exercise commenced by FIRS on the activities of foreign shipping companies lifting hydrocarbons from Nigeria was part of measures aimed at widening the tax net in order to grow revenue for the government. Still regarding Nigeria, a truce will soon be called in the ongoing oil field dispute between Italian oil company Eni and the Nigerian government, as the oil giant has called for a temporary suspension of the arbitration against the federal government. This is to pave the way for negotiation to convert the license from prospecting to one for production, according to reports. Eni yesterday confirmed the suspension of the arbitration by the World Bank's dispute settlement body regarding the OPL 245 oil field, considered to be potentially the biggest oil block in the country. This move comes days after Nigeria commenced the process of withdrawing civil claims totaling $1.1 billion against Eni in relation to allegations of corruption in the OPL 245 deal. Eni and Shell were awarded rights for the offshore field OPL 245 in 2011, but the area has never been exploited as it became subject to multiple disputes that are now coming to an end. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 491.39 million shares in 6,549 deals, corresponding to a market value of 3.22 billion naira, were traded. Compared with yesterday's trading day, today's data shows a 37% improvement in volume but 26% decline in turnover. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 39.1 trillion naira. In the aggregate, 122 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 45 gainers and 8 losers. Macor Industries led the gainers with a 10% share price appreciation, closing at 6.93 kobo per share. On the losing side, Champion Breweries came out last with an end-of-day price depreciation of 10% at 3.24 kobo per share. Unity Bank recorded the highest volume of 75.4 million traded shares. This is all in business news, and back to Yaya Nyaken for the rest of the news. Good evening.
Thank you, Blessing Dixon. Still to come in the news. ICC shifts men's Under-19 World Cup from Sri Lanka to South Africa. Stay tuned for details of this and more after the break.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Thanks for staying tuned in now to the rest of the news stories. In our health news, pharmacists and pediatricians in the country have said that they are becoming increasingly concerned about the scarcity and hike in prices of essential medicine and the serious impact it is having on children's health. They said the scarcity and high prices of drugs used in managing pediatric cases would make treatment inaccessible or unaffordable for parents, warning that this could lead to an increase in child morbidity and mortality. The pharmacist and pediatrician stated that the production and price of children's drugs had been affected by the forex crisis and predicted the scarcity of some drugs. Recall that the World Health Organization in a recent report ranked Nigeria as the second country with the highest number of maternal, neonatal, and child deaths globally. Still in health, medical experts have expressed concern over the increasing rate of loneliness among Nigerians, which they said could increase the burden of mental illness in the country if not urgently addressed. The public health expert and clinical psychologist who revealed that 50% of lonely people were at risk of mental illness noted that both older people and adolescents experience loneliness. According to the Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, more than 60 million Nigerians are suffering from mental illnesses, with only about 10% of them able to access appropriate care. The physicians identified westernization and social media dependence as some of the factors fueling loneliness in Nigeria. Over now to David for latest sports stories. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening and welcome. In sports, the ICC board today decided to shift the 2024 Men's Under-19 World Cup from Sri Lanka to South Africa. The move, a unanimous decision by the board, was taken as a consequence of the international cricket community recently provisionally suspending the Sri Lanka cricket due to extensive government interference in the board's administration. The ICC confirmed moving the tournament to South Africa after hearing representation from Sri Lanka cricket. The ICC board decided that Sri Lanka can continue to compete internationally in bilateral cricket, an ICC event, after being suspended recently for breaching its obligation as a member, in particular the requirement to manage its affairs autonomously and without government interference. South Africa has been a favorite for hosting the Under-19 World Cup event recently. The country hosted the inaugural edition of the Women's Under-19 World Cup in 2023 and the Men's Under-19 World Cup in 2020. Still in the world of cricket, the last two sports for the ICC Men's T20 World Cup 2024 will be decided during the 7th Africa Regional Qualifier beginning on Wednesday in Namibia. Nigeria's Yellow Greens are among the teams that will be fighting for the slots allocated to Africa and have been drawn against Kenya in the opening game. The organizers have officially released the fixtures of the matches later today, as the qualifier is set to commence on Wednesday. After facing Kenya in the first game, the Nigeria side will confront one of the tournament's favorites, Rwanda, in the second game before facing Tanzania in the third game. They will play Uganda, Zimbabwe, and the host Namibia later in the competition. Finally, from the world of football, Paris Saint-Germain midfielder Warren Zaïre-Emery will be sidelined for the rest of 2023 after suffering an ankle injury in his debut for France on Saturday. The 17-year-old left the field after he was caught on his ankle by a Gilberto defender while scoring in France's 14-0 victory. Zaïre-Emery became France's youngest player since 1914 and also the youngest goal scorer for the country since that date in the Euro 2024 qualifier. Zaïre-Emery will be unavailable for Paris Saint-Germain's next 5 League One fixtures and the final 2 UEFA Champions League group games. And that's all we have for you on sports this evening. I am Utabe David.
Thank you, Utabe David. We move now to our entertainment news, where a court in Los Angeles has ruled that United States of America rapper ASAP Rocky will stand trial for twice pulling a gun on a former friend and shooting at him once. The 35-year-old, who has 2 children with R&B star Rihanna, is being prosecuted on 2-count charge of assault with a semi-automatic firearm. He has denied the charges. The court heard how Terrell Efron, one of the founding members of the ASAP collective, was left slightly injured after the confrontation in Hollywood in November 2021. At a hearing last week, Efron, known by his stage name ASAP Rally, said the friendship between the two men had soared, accusing him of abandoning other members of the group, which was founded in New York in 2008. Still on entertainment, barely 4 days after announcing that he has decided to give up smoke, American hip-hop legend Calvin Cardoza Brodus Jr., popularly known as Snoop Dogg, has come out to clarify that the smoking he gave up was not weed but smoky room warmer. In an advertisement video shared via his X handle, Snoop Dogg said he was going smokeless with Solo Stove. Meanwhile, his earlier announcement that he was quitting smoking after much consideration and conversation with his family had his fans and colleagues thinking he was referring to his age-long addiction to weed. Recall that his colleague Meek Mill had announced to follow suit by relocating to Dubai to quit smoking, saying he was diagnosed with emphysema. Meanwhile, British singer Adele has reportedly confirmed she's married to sports agent Rich Paul. The singer made the revelation at Alan Carr's comedy stand-up debut in the United States. The superstar said she and Paul have been dating since 2021, describing him as the most incredible and open-hearted person. Lastly, in the news tonight, Nigerian singer Davido is set to thrill fans at the Eagle Square, Abuja, after an electrifying away concert in Atlanta. Davido's Atlanta concert was a success, leaving fans in awe with hits like Stand Strong and Unavailable. The timeless concert promised surprises, electrifying performances, fun activities, and the timeless experience, as the event is set to showcase Davido's evolution as an artist and redefine Afrobeats once again. If that's all we have for you tonight, channel, which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv Live. My name is Uyai, and thanks for being a part of this, and do have a splendid night rest. Good night, Nigeria.